Hi guys, I want to take a few moments and introduce you to the new B300K from Bluetti. This is the series of batteries that are available for the AC200, the AC300, and the AC500. The only real major differences with this battery is it's a smaller form factor, has a little bit less power. Why would Bluetti go ahead and deploy this type of battery? So we'll go over that. I'm not going to go over every little spec and detail about this battery. There's a lot of information online. Some information changes from the point of the documentation that Bluetti sent with this device to me for testing. And then also there's going to be a lot of other people that are going to review and provide that information. There's no point wasting your time to go ahead and repeat that information. This video should really be about what's different, what information can I provide to you that others are not going to. So first off, let's talk about this battery. This battery is slightly a different tone of color than the other Bluetti devices. You may not be able to see that from the camera, but it's a little bit more of a gray tone. Really not that big of a deal unless you really want it to perfectly match. It is a little bit of a smaller form factor. They did remove some items from here. We'll go over that here in a little bit. And it also has a little bit less watt hours or capacity, let's say, in this battery. This one is rating at about 2,700 watt hours in comparison to the B300. And then down here, I have some B300Ss, which are both at a little over 3,000 watt hours. So there's about a 300 watt hour difference. What does that mean to you? Well, let's say if you take a box fan, those can run from like 80 watts to 100 watts, let's say, in a medium speed. So you're looking at about 3.5 hours less of runtime for that box fan. So it's not a huge loss, but obviously you will lose a little bit here. This battery will come with a USB port here. It's a USB-A. It did not come with a USB-C. I know to some people that's really important. A lot of new devices come with a USB-C. For me, I have so many adapters from all the devices I have. It's really not that big of a deal. It also does come with a new power button. It feels a little bit different. Functionality is still the same. The LEDs for battery status, they have different blink combinations that will tell you status and error codes of the battery. And one of the things you will lose, and we'll talk a little bit about this more in the next section, is you do not have a PV input and a DC input for this battery like you do on the B300 and the B300S. Now, for me, that is a very important item, and I think that's the weighing point that's going to make you decide if you want this battery or you're going to avoid this battery. In the back of the battery, there is some new screw holes for mounting brackets. I'm not sure if Bluetti is going to release a mounting bracket system or they expect you to do your own, but I'm assuming what this is going to be is going to allow you to attach multiple batteries together through a bracket and hopefully give it a little bit more stability. Because as you can see, these things stack pretty high, and I don't even have them as high as they can go, and they can become unstable. And with this much weight, you don't want it to be unstable. And with a lithium phosphate battery, you really don't want to be dropping this all over the ground and causing damage to that battery. We've all seen what happens with that. So we obviously want a secure battery. I'm glad to see that mounting bracket. I'll be interested to see what they're going to offer or what they're going to suggest or what other reviewers are going to put together to advise people on how to make that more secure. So once again, this battery weighs about 20 pounds less. I will tell you when you pick it up, it really doesn't feel any lighter than the B300 or B300S, but supposedly it's 20 pounds less, and I did confirm it. I think B300s are around, B300S and B300 are around 80 something pounds, and the B300K is around 60 pounds. So you definitely did lose that 20 pound difference between them. So in my setup, I tested it with an AC500 in combination with B300s and B300Ss. No issue, no problem, everything worked. I tested it with the B300 here. Well, not B300, excuse me, the AC300 here. I have multiple of these units, and I tested it in a single phase. No issue, no problem. The battery does come with a 90 amp battery cable, but in order for you to connect it to the AC500, you will need that 90 amp to 150 amp battery cable. So you either have to order that separately if you're going to add it to an AC500 system. Now, In the next section, we're going to really talk about the meat of what I want for this video, and that's going to be that lack of PV and the lack of DC input for this battery. It doesn't necessarily prevent the battery from being a standalone unit. You can still use it for this USB here for charging devices, but unlike the B300 and the B300S, I can directly charge those batteries through solar or through a T500 that's over here. Actually, I have them under here too because I stacked everything on top of my existing system. Nobody really wants to move these too many times. So let's go ahead and jump into that next section, talking about how do you charge this battery? What are the potential concerns if you drain this battery completely? And how do you recover it? So let's go to that section next. All right, guys, in this section, I want to talk about the comparisons of the new B300K versus its predecessors, the B300 and B300S. I also want to talk about some maintenance items, which may lead to why this battery is maybe right for you or wrong for you. So first off, let's talk about those comparisons. So most of the Bluetti batteries in the AC300, AC500 series are relatively the same. And I'm not going to talk about the AC200 because I don't have it. So I'm going to talk about what I know, what I touch, what I test. So in comparison to the B300, 300S, and B300K, the new B300K is a little bit smaller and it's a little bit lighter. Okay, so a little bit lighter, doesn't feel like it, but it is. It's about 20 pounds lighter. And it's a few inches shorter in size compared to the B300 and B300S. And I'll show that to you right now. I've got a ruler in my hand. So this is a B300. It's about 10 inches in height, which is exactly the same height of a B300S. And if I look at this new B300K, we're looking at 8 inches. So I'm losing 2 inches. So once again, I'm losing the 2 inches, but it may be a gain, especially for somebody in my setup that has a large stack of devices. For every 2 inches I lose, that's great. It reduces my chance of something falling over, and it makes my stack a lot smaller. So, give an example, these 3 batteries right here, I'd already be 6 inches shorter just by having all of these B300Ks. Well, first we need to talk about why is it shorter? What am I losing? Am I losing anything? And the answer is yes, you are losing a few items there. So in the B300 and the B300S that came prior, they had a PV solar input for direct charging the battery, and it had a DC input for direct charging the battery. And you can do that through something like this T500, which plugs into an AC outlet that sends direct power to the battery for direct charging. So I didn't need the head unit to charge the battery. I could take the battery independently and use it. Well, the 2 inches I'm losing here, I'm losing those items. I do not have a PV input, and I do not have a DC input on this. One other item I should mention real quick as I am getting on this is that mounting brackets, so the holes that are in the back. So I talked about that stack and stacking these up. That is another benefit I forgot to mention real quick, that you can secure them better to each other. Granted, mine's pretty secure, but I've seen some other Bluetti setups where I think they're risking a complete failure or it's falling over. But I should mention that real quick. But the loss of that PV input and that DC input may or may not be a problem for you. For me, it's not a problem. I would love the 2-inch loss for every single battery for it to be not stacked so high. I have other batteries that already have the PV and DC inputs. I really don't need every single battery to have it. But if you were in a situation where you're buying your very first Bluetti, AC300 or AC500, and these do not have batteries in them, you have to have at least one battery to have them work. And let's say you have this setup right here, this AC300 and this one B300K, and you accidentally drain this battery completely to zero. You're not connected to grid, you have no solar coming in, maybe it's nighttime, maybe you're camping, maybe you're in an RV, and you drain this completely. The system will shut off automatically because it's going to try to protect this battery. There's still reserve powered in here, but to the head unit's perspective, there's 0%, no battery. Well, let's say you left this in that state for 6 to 8 hours. Well, previously on the B300 and B300S, if I did that same scenario, I drained it to zero and I left it for 6 to 8 hours or longer, that battery will continue to slightly drain and drain below the threshold that the head unit requires. So I would go ahead and try to fire it back on, and it would reject that battery. It will not charge that battery. It will not use that battery. The battery is a brick, okay? The only way to recover that battery was to take solar and go directly into the battery. So you're going to bypass this head unit, or you're going to use one of these T500s to also charge that battery directly, bypassing this head unit. And you would just basically use it to recover the battery. You need to get like a couple of percentage of state of charge of that battery, and then the head unit would recognize it again, and it would be wonderful and great and move on. Well, like I said, go back to this scenario where I have this one AC300 with one B300K, and I completely drain this battery, and I'm out camping, and I have no way to charge it until I get home. And once I go ahead and try to hook this system back up and use it, this battery is drained below that threshold. Head unit won't use it, won't recognize it. So that potentially is a problem right there. So what my recommendation would be off the bat is, if this is your first system, don't let this be your first battery, okay? For the average user. For the average user, they don't have these T500s. They don't have all the accessories needed to potentially recover a system. I would say, and this would be my recommendation, if it is your first AC500, AC300, get a B300 or a B300S. One that has that PV input that you can just put a solar panel directly on the side of it, let it trickle charge, basically a charge into that battery and recover it. You use the T500 to recover it. You need a mechanism to recover that battery. Once again, if you only have one battery, this is not my recommendation. Now, if you're a intermediate or advanced user of the Bluetti system, now I'm going to go into how you can still recover this battery. So this was a concern of myself and a few other testers in this scenario where you drain this, what was going to happen. So I actually took the last week to actually test this, and I have completely drained this battery, and I've already hooked everything back up to go ahead and see what was going to happen. The HUD unit will come on sometimes, and sometimes it will not, I've noticed. And when it does come on, obviously it's telling me that the battery is beyond drain. It won't touch it. It won't use it. It won't do anything with that battery. So one of the tricks that I found to get this working again is you'll notice that this battery is shut off right now. And the reason why it's shut off is typically it's connected to my AC 500 split phase system. But right now I have this battery connected together, and then connected into this AC300. So the trick that I'm doing is I'm using the B300's DC input port with one of these T500s to send the power into the B300. And what I have found with previous testing that I've done is, whenever you use a DC input into one of the batteries, it shares the power between them. So what I did is power goes into here, and it actually winds up sending the power here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on, because this has been drained. You'll notice both batteries will come on. It'll take a second. And right now it's saying it's at 22%. And the reason why it's saying 22% is because this battery has power and this guy does not. So we're going to go into here. And honestly, just because of these sitting together with or without the T500 running in here, they're starting to normalize each other. Okay. So before I started this video, this guy was sitting at 0%. Just by having them connected, they're sharing power. And I am now at 2% for here. And I am at, what is this at? 43% for this guy. So that is one of the recovery methods that you can use. And this is where I would recommend you start using the B300K, is saying, if you have another battery that you can use that has that PV input, that has that DC input, then you really aren't at risk. And then this is a great option. It's going to be a little bit cheaper than the B300 and B300S. It's, like I said, smaller form factor. It's a little bit lighter. Why not go for it if you already have other batteries? If it's your first system, once again, I wouldn't really recommend it, because you can't hook up a T500. You can't hook up solar directly to this. You cannot recover this battery if it is your only battery.
All right, guys, I just ended the video, but I switched over to my cell phone because I wanted to show you guys that when I ended this, we were at, what, 43% for battery 3, and it just changed right in front of our eyes. But this is where I was talking about the batteries are normalizing. So this is that recovery process that I was talking about. So in the, what, 5 minutes or less time that the video ended and I switched over, we have already gone up to 6% for the B300K, and we've gone to a, let's say, 39% for the old B300s. All right, guys, I wanted to give another update with some more important information. So it's been about 20 hours later, and you can see we went from 40% to about 20%. Really what happened is the two batteries kind of normalized, and the average of the batteries is closer to that 20%. We can see that last night, that battery 2, which is that B300K, went from 6% stored battery power from battery pack number 3, which is that B300, and it brought itself up to 17%. Obviously, battery 3 dropped from 40-something% down to the 23%. Now, obviously, excuse me, that these are not exactly the same percentage, and that's fine, simply because what really is the same between these two is their voltages. So let's go take a quick peek at that. Oops, helps if I click the right things here. Okay, so let's go back down to battery 1, we can see, and its voltage right now for all the cells is about 3.27. I see one right here, maybe two that are at 3.28, but it's at 3.27. If I go to the second battery, oops, I skipped that. We can see it's also at 3.27. So that's why the power has stopped distributing, is that the voltages between the two batteries are the same, relatively the same. Okay, so we're going to go back real quick to the home page, and you'll note once again there's no charge for grid, there's no charge for PV, there's actually no load to the system. The only thing that's connected is a head unit to a B300, which had the power. It shared it because it's in series with a B300K. Now, the only reason why it shared that power between these two is two things. One, like I said, they're in series, and two, it's because it's connected to a head unit. When you turn on this head unit and it communicates down to these batteries, it actually engages that battery port that's on the side. Otherwise, that battery port is actually not fully engaged. Sometimes you'll see, let's say, less than 14 volts on it, but not until you turn on that head unit, you won't get the full 50-something volts that usually come out of these battery packs, okay? So when you have a B300K that has, let's say, just hit 0, the head unit says, nope, I ain't using it until you charge, and maybe for some reason it will not charge this, add another battery, okay? Now, can it be another B300K? Yeah, possible for that to occur and it to exchange the charge. But what happens if you have multiple B300Ks and they're all at 0 because you didn't catch it in time? Well, this is once again why I say you should have at least one B300 or B300S, so that you have that PV input and that DC input to use a T500 or solar to send that power into one of these batteries. It will then share that power with the B300K, no matter if you have one or two, and it will recover that battery. So this goes back to why I say, in my advice, in my opinion, that you should have the B300K as not your first and only battery. Okay, if this is your first battery, get a B300, get a B300S. If you have already B300s and B300Ss, this is a great expansion battery because you can use the other ports on the other batteries to recover this battery. So that would be my advice. I hope this information helps, and I hope it makes your decision, let's say, easier on is the B300K right for you.